Have you played Oceanhorn yet?
Hi everybody, this is KillRed40, and I'm here today to talk about Oceanhorn. Oceanhorn is a pretty amazing game. I really enjoyed a lot of this. I thought that it was great. A lot of it reminded me of the old Zelda games that I played when I was younger, and I thought it was super fun. If you've been wanting an old type of Zelda game and Breath of the Wild didn't do it for you, definitely check out Oceanhorn. It's pretty fun. The controls are incredibly responsive, and I thought the graphics look great, and I think that one of the best things about this game is the story. I love how the story differentiates itself from Zelda like no other. You start off as this young kid who has a father who is being hunted by this mechanical demon named the Oceanhorn. And I really liked this idea. I thought it was really cool, added a lot of tension to this fun adventure, and I just really enjoyed this plot. There's a lot of lore in here for all you people that like lore. If you just like textbooks upon textbooks of lore, you're definitely going to enjoy this, and you'll get your $15 worth in no time. If you talk to all the different NPCs, you'll learn so much about this world, and it will be incredibly fun for you. You'll just love it. Another thing that I really enjoyed was all of the items. I thought that they were all fun, and there was no issues with them. I also really liked all of the enemies. They were just perfect. Here at COG, we give Oceanhorn a 10 out of 10. Go check it out now. This is KillRed40 signing out.
What the fuck did I just watch? Red, is that really what you want? You want to be like all them other IGN scum fucks?
No, that's not at all what I'm saying. I just don't know what to say other
Tell
than
people how you feel, Red. Otherwise, you're just as bad as all those other blue checkmark pieces of shit bitches online. And you know it. Not that I would care though, Red. I want to see you die. I hate your fucking channel. I want to see you burn. I want to see you be nobody, Red. I hope you stay a nobody and that your channel just keeps going down in view time and engagements. Just keep on telling the people what they want to hear, Red. That's the way to do it.
I just need to get this video out.
That's fine, Red. It's up to you. It's your decision. Just remember that on the internet, your actions have consequences. Eventually, people are going to know how you truly are.
Yeah, he's right. All right, we're starting this video over again. This is KillRed40, and we're here to talk about Oceanhorn. Oceanhorn is a game that I think I'm very deeply conflicted on. While I really enjoy the idea of this monster coming and trying to hunt down your dad, and it's like this ancient being, I really liked the story in this game, and I did like all of the effort that clearly went into making it. I can tell that the people making it really put their all into making a game work on the iOS that is as big as a Zelda game, and I can see why a ton of people like this. Let's start off with the positives. I really enjoy the music in this game. I think that it is pretty good and fits the tone really well. It gives you this relaxed atmosphere, but also dark at times when it wants to be. I thought that the tracks were all really good and really fit the mood of the game. Another thing that I really enjoyed actually was the writing. I did like the story. I liked hearing about this kid and how he had to go and find his father and help him defeat Oceanhorn. I thought that that was pretty different from a regular Zelda game, which Oceanhorn isn't. And I thought that some of the items were pretty cool. I liked the bow. It worked just like it does in Zelda. And I liked the jumping boot that you get later on in the game. I kind of wish that this was near the beginning of the game because I think it could have added to the combat system a little bit. While you can also jump, you can also do this like roll dodge, which could help a lot when it comes to different confrontations that happen within Oceanhorn. I think that that would have helped the gameplay a lot if we had gotten it a little bit sooner. I also liked the spells. I thought the spells were a lot of fun. I liked being able to freeze enemies or set them on fire, or even for some weird reason just be able to like make a pot summon right above them so that I could smash them in the head with it. I thought that was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed that. The other thing that I will mention is that there are some enemies that I thought were really cool. I liked the skeleton enemies that are near the beginning of the game, and I did like some that will have to wait until after the spoilers. But this is where the issues kind of start to come in for me. Personally, I have played a lot of Zelda. I have played every 3D Zelda except for Skyward Sword. And the reason I skipped out on Skyward Sword was because I was tired of that particular structure of a game, which is something that Oceanhorn has. I thought maybe I could get over this sort of hang up that I have with these sort of games with Oceanhorn and be able to kind of put that to the side. But personally, I couldn't. It just felt way too much like an old school Zelda game. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for a lot of people, but for me, it just feels boring. I've already done this before. I've went through the motions of going through a bunch of different dungeons in order to collect these magical items to help me defeat the Dark Lord Ganon, or in this game, Mesmeroth. I've already done all of that, and I just feel like I couldn't get into the game because of this. On top of that is the art style, which looks very much like a mishmash of different Zelda games. We have a little bit of Wind Waker in here, a little bit of Link to the Past, a little bit of Ocarina. I just think it doesn't ever create an identity of its own until near the very end, which once again I can get into later after spoilers. So if all of this doesn't bother you, I might recommend Oceanhorn for maybe like $10. I bought it for $15, but $10 or $7 I think would be a good pay range for this game. I'd also say that I did not play this on iOS. I think that if you were playing this on iOS just kind of casually, it would be an awesome game and you could probably really enjoy it. I was playing the Steam version, which it's kind of difficult to really enjoy this game when it's sitting right next to Doom 2016 on my desktop. But with all that said, check it out if you want to. If you are tired of Zelda, definitely don't check this out. Now we're going to get into some spoilers. So for the spoilers category, I think I'm going to start with the positives again. I really enjoyed the first main dungeon where you have to fight this big monstrous plant type boss. I really liked that fight. It did feel a lot like a Zelda game, but it was still really fun to do that pattern boss gameplay where you had to figure out how to kill him and then you had to make him expose his weak point so that you could go and slash at it. I always thought that was super fun. The other part that I really enjoyed was in the Sky Dungeon. I really like the Sky Dungeon because this is where the game sort of started to get close to forming its own identity. They had a bunch of these cogs and gears everywhere and this electricity, and it was very like mechanical. And while that is in some Zelda games, it felt pretty different for Oceanhorn. I liked it. There were a couple of enemies that I really enjoyed that were similar to the skeletons that were previously mentioned in the Sky Dungeon. They were like these big lizard looking things that took quite a bit of hits to kill, and I thought that they were a lot of fun because you had to get from behind them and attack them that way to get to their weak point. It made the combat a little bit more deep in my opinion. Now we're gonna have to get into the negatives. Once again, these are my completely subjective opinions that they just apply to me. I could not handle how much this was like Zelda. My brain thinks very comparatively, so when I'm on the ocean, I kept thinking of Zelda Wind Waker and how that game looked and how it functioned, where this game felt a little bit different from Wind Waker because you were always on a constant linear path that you created using your mouse or your touchscreen or whatever you're playing this on. It sort of felt similar to Phantom Hourglass, but it just wasn't as fun. It was just kind of this linear, almost gallery shooter where you just shot at things so that your boat wouldn't hit it, and there was really not that much challenge. I didn't really like it. I never had like a good incentive to go and explore this ocean. There are some islands to find that you won't be able to find unless you just go through the whole game, but still, I don't know, I just didn't find it that fun. It didn't give me the same vibes of Wind Waker. Another thing that bothered me throughout the entire game was just the puzzles. I didn't like them. A lot of them were pushing blocks or sometimes pushing statues, and sometimes the puzzles didn't even have hints on what you should or shouldn't be doing, and I thought the game didn't communicate to you quite as well as it should have. Another example of what I'm talking about is how there are certain cliffs that you can fall off of to get through shortcuts, while others have invisible walls, and I thought that this was incredibly frustrating at a lot of points in the game. There were times when I thought that I could get to another area, but to be stopped by this invisible wall, and it was especially frustrating when there was a puzzle that I couldn't get past or that I didn't care to do, and I was just trying to get past it by jumping off of the cliff, but once again, there's an invisible wall. I don't understand why the developers didn't just put a fence there. It would make a lot more sense, both in the game and just to communicate with the player, that you can't go there. Some other parts that I really disliked were there were certain enemies that you had to use your spells to defeat them, and it was all very contextual. Like an ice one, you would have to throw fire at it. With a fire one, you'd have to throw ice at it. In theory, this is fine, but with the mixture of the only way to get mana is through breaking pots, these pots are all randomly generated, whatever's inside of them. So sometimes you'll get mana, sometimes you'll get coins, sometimes you'll get something else. It was really frustrating because you could go for maybe 20 minutes not getting any mana, and I wouldn't be able to defeat these enemies. I did not like this at all. There was a particular dungeon that happened in the middle of the game. It was with these Zora looking characters that just was incredibly frustrating because there was a lot of these types of enemies, and there were a lot of times when I actually had to exit the entire dungeon just to find more mana so that I could fight these normal enemies. Another thing that really bothered me was with your regular Zelda game, you could swipe at the pots and break them. With this game, it's different. You have to pick them up and throw them so that you can break the pot and get whatever's inside of it. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is when you're in the middle of combat or in a boss fight and you have to get some hearts. Hearts are actually really hard to find. I ended this game with having 5 hearts, so for the majority of the game I had the starting amount, which is 4, and I hated doing this, especially in boss fights when they're shooting things at me or trying to kill me. I have to go through a whole animation and leave myself exposed just to get a heart. It was not worth it most of the time. All of these little tiny things just created this very unpleasant experience for me, and I think it might just be for personal reasons. Personally, I don't really know if Oceanhorn is a bad game. I don't really know if any of the games that I talk about are actually bad games. These are just my experiences with them. I have seen that people are calling this channel a review show, which essentially it is, but I never really thought of it that way. A while ago on the Krillcast, they asked me what this channel was supposed to be, and at one point I mentioned that it was a vlog channel, and I think I still stand by that. This was just kind of a way for me to talk about single player games with other people that play single player games, and I thought maybe making this channel would be a good way to do that. I personally don't want to be the type of person to decide the quality of a game. I just want to tell you guys my experiences with it. I personally think that there is a lot of subjectivity in almost every review you see, whether you know it or not, and I think that's really important to remember and to understand. One big problem with critics and audiences is that they don't communicate at all. Critics have this big corporate conglomerate behind it, usually, such as IGN or Kotaku, and they're all very faceless people where you don't know what their tastes are and you don't know what they like or what their background are, and that's what makes them so frustrating when they give certain games good reviews or negative reviews. Another factor that I see in this is that between audience and critic, or between audience and journalist, there is sort of this weird ecosystem. Think of the backlash that somebody would get if they gave the upcoming Last of Us 2 something less than an 8. It would be terrible for their website, which in my opinion is not a good thing because we need to have a bunch of different opinions and thoughts surrounding different games. I think everybody has valid points and opinions, and that's what I wanted to get across with Oceanhorn. I don't know if it's a good game or not. I just didn't like it, and that's fine. I hope that if you pick it up, you really enjoy it. And if you don't and you agree with me, go ahead and leave a comment. I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching. As always, this is KillRed40 signing out.
Keeping it fresh.